Hello and welcome to episode 77. My favorite number, Joanne.
It's
77
a good
Conversations
number.
to Connect. I know. Let's Get Real podcast powered by Exceptional Connections. I'm Cyndi ONeill-Dady, the founder and chief connector of Exceptional Connections since 2009. Our conversation this week is with the inspiring Joanne Goldbaum, joining us from Kent, Washington. So welcome, Joanne.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited about literally rolling up our sleeves here and discussing the power of vision with you today. So before we jump into this intriguing conversation, I want to take a moment to introduce
I'm
Joanne,
sorry, I have to call you back.
who may
I'm
not,
sorry.
that's okay, who may not know her, who are joining us on this conversation at a later date. So for over 13 years, Joanne has been studying and implementing transformational success principles. As a speaker, trainer, and certified coach, Joanne's coaching programs help people break through limitations and achieve greater results than they have ever known possible. Joanne specializes in helping women ignite their passion inside of them, rediscovering their dreams, accelerating their results, and create richer and more fulfilling lives. So I'm excited to be able to jump into the power of vision with you. Um, but tell us a little bit more about your journey before we jump in.
Oh, about my journey. Well, so before I got into this work, I think like so many of us, I was raised, in a household to be appreciative for what you have and not, expect a lot or um, you know, all those things that I, learned as a kid. It's like, money doesn't grow on trees, appreciate what you have, be grateful for what you have. There's starving children in Africa, all those things, right? So it was really ingrained in me as a young child to just not really want more and to push down, what I wanted in life. And so I did what I thought I needed to do. I got into the corporate world and I tried to climb that ladder and, went back to school and as an adult, which was really difficult, but I thought it's what I needed to do to support my family and, to give them what they needed. But the problem was, yeah, I was just miserable. It got to the point where I was literally felt like I was checking my soul at the door, and my whole family was miserable. And so when layoffs came around once again, I decided I was going to make a change and I started looking around for some different things. And I actually got into this work before I decided that I was going to take that voluntary layoff. And that's actually one of the things that gave me the courage to do so. By applying those tools in my own life for probably a good year, year and a half before that happened, it gave me the courage and the know-how to know that I did deserve more and to go ahead and make that leap of faith and go for it. So that's what I
So
did.
you already had a mindset shift before the opportunity to retire was provided, which is probably important, right? To just get yourself
Yes,
in that.
yes. It was very important for me because I wasn't a real risk taker, at that time. I really felt like I needed to do what was secure for my family, and there was a lot of fear around, change, which
Mm,
is very natural. So yeah, it was
yes.
it was definitely very important for me to have that first.
So we really appreciate you taking the time and being our spotlight speaker for our Exceptional Connections event last week. And you had 20 minutes to do just a wonderful talk for our community. But there wasn't an opportunity for Q&A. And so we have some listeners on our call today at the 45-minute mark. We'll open it up for Q&A. So be sure to take notes and you'll have, an opportunity to ask questions to Joanne, who's not only understands the power of vision, but also has been able to use these tools herself, right, to redesign your life. So that's exciting. So Joanne, you say that our goals and dreams often emerge from challenges, right? We know that. That, a lot of times that's where that was the seed that allowed you to take your, your goals and dreams to the next level. So can you take a moment to share, share in your life when longing and discontent, because those are triggers that you say help us to understand that it's, that something's missing, right? When longing and discontent became a signal for growth and helped shape your current vision.
Oh, definitely. Well, kind of like I'd already discussed, I was in a corporate job and I was just miserable. But in addition to that, I always had a longing for something more. I always felt like I was meant for something more. I wanted to do something to help people and to really make a difference in the world. And I just really did feel it to my core. I just knew that there was something better out there for me. But I just kept pushing it down and pushing it down because I felt like I really wasn't entitled to do that. I wasn't, it wasn't the right thing to do is to want and long for something more. I just needed to stay the course and do what I needed to do to provide for my family. So yeah, so that was a huge thing. And so once I did start, doing this work and realize that it's okay to be grateful and still want more, and that it's okay. It's actually our natural, as human beings, it's natural for us to want more, right?
Right.
Um, and to be okay with that, that's when I decided that it was time for me to pursue something better for sure, and something that could actually help people and fill my soul. So,
You know what? You made a really good point because you're right. I mean, I can relate to what you were saying in terms of money doesn't grow on trees and be grateful for what you have, but it is you can be grateful and want more. That is something that I think needs to be shared with young people that nowadays and that would have been great helpful for us growing up in our generation. Um, so let's talk about. So you mentioned the power of vision and the importance of designing your dream, and you shared three different key points to help us in designing our dream. So why is clarity such an important force in helping us achieve new results, and how can someone find clarity through that?
well, clarity is very important because if you don't get really crystal clear on what it is your vision is and what it is you really want, it's too easy to dismiss it, right? It's like, and you need to put it out to the universe. The more specific you are, the more it's kind of like the way it was put to me is it's like um the power of your answers is kind of the power of your question, right? So if you're very vague and it's like, oh, well, yeah, I'd love to have, let's use an example. I'd love to have, a new home. Well, what does that mean? I mean, that could mean such a variety of things. It could be a one-bedroom home, or it could be a three-bedroom home. It could be a mansion, or it could be on a farm. You have to get really specific on what it is you really want so that you can come from your vision. And that means you have to have the feeling tone, the vision that's crystal clear in your mind so that you can actually feel it when you're visioning your dream and coming from your dream, you can feel yourself actually being there and living that experience. And that's what's going to change your vibration and put you on that higher frequency in order to be able to achieve those dreams.
When you talk about it like that, when you're able, allowing yourself to feel it and envision it and really be there, be in the future, right? Then I've heard the saying, and I'm not going to get it correct because I can't, it's not coming to me right now, but it's like our dreams, we're propelled towards our dreams. Our dreams manifest themselves. So we're kind of reverse engineering it in a way because we're imagining it,
Yes,
we're visualizing it, it's out there, and then it becomes a magnetizing force. Um, it's really a
right.
powerful thing.
As my mentor puts it, we need to come from our vision, not try to go to our vision,
Oh, that's good.
coming from
That's
it.
really good. I like that. That's beautiful. So your number one key was to redesign your dream, right?
Yeah.
And and again, I loved when you talked about the power of clarity because that's where if you're not clear, if you don't know where you're, if you're not clear where you're going to go, how are you going to get there? That's the how part, right? People say
Exactly.
how. Well, it starts here, right? That's
It
that's what I heard from you, and that's what I've experienced in my own life.
It definitely starts with your thoughts because if you're thinking about your circumstances and your conditions and how you're not going to be able to be there, like, oh, well, I want this dream home, but oh, well, I don't have the job for that. I don't have the income for that. That's not going to happen. If you're in that mindset, it's never going to happen. And you're not going to open yourself up to other possibilities if you are in that mindset. So it's
And
very, very important to come from the vision and have a really clear, crystal clear idea of where you want to go and where you want to be so that you can come from that.
it reminds me of when you're building a house. Obviously you have to have a good foundation for the house. And so the same thing through this whole process of, the power of vision, you're creating that foundation. If you're building a house, you don't just have the material and put it together. You have a blueprint, right?
Right.
Have a,
And that's what we call it. You have to have a blueprint for your dream, just like you do for a house when you're building a house. A
right.
crystal clear plan. Yeah.
Right. So that then you can execute it. You can still make changes.
Oh,
What
yeah,
people need to
definitely.
realize, you can hire an architect and you can have the blueprints and then say, I want to move this wall here and I don't want to put this here. You can still make changes, but that way you have a, kind of a map, a roadmap, a blueprint for your dreams to be able to follow and execute it in a way that it's going to be, it's going to be good. It's going to be stable.
Yeah.
It's going to, you're going to have a future and a hope in that, and it'll be something that's has a firm foundation as well.
Exactly. And just because you achieve one dream, no matter how small or big it is, it doesn't mean you stop dreaming either, right? Then it's like, okay, well, what's next? What's next?
That's a really good point too, because sometimes we need to do things incrementally to give ourselves, and not because our dreams wouldn't happen if we just dream big, but because we need to give ourselves that confidence that we can do it. And so sometimes taking baby steps, sometimes having like a dream that, okay, I can do this, or to, go through the execution of it and be able to say, yeah, gain confidence from that process.
Right. In my program, we start out with micro dreams, actually. So, because
Perfect.
today, a lot of people, when you talk about dreaming, a lot of people just go, well, what do you mean? It's like we've kind of lost the capability of doing so, I think a lot of people, because um, it's just you get caught in the day to day and what you need to do for life. And, you kind of just let go of actually dreaming of what you would really love. So yeah, we start with micro dreams and we work our way up so that people
And that's
can,
why it's important, like especially for, the current generation, that, the we're the baby boomers and but there's generations that it's more instant gratification, and so there's not a lot of planning as a result. I think that's something that our generation it was more integral to our generation. But it just occurred to me that the word vision and then envision, those words are so rich in helping us to be able to take that next step. Like
mm.
you're
Oh
not
yeah,
having to do the whole blueprint. You're just dreaming. You're just envisioning. You're, you know, um, creating a future in your head before it's manifested in the physical. And so
right.
it's so important to give us ourselves permission to be able to do that. Doesn't cost us anything, right? You don't have to hire an
Exactly.
architect.
And the
I'm
thing is, your subconscious, the importance of that also is your subconscious does not know the difference between what is a reality or what you put into your mind, your thoughts, going back to the thoughts, and that being number one. Whatever you think, like the old saying goes, whatever you're thinking is what you're going to be generating,
right, right.
So your subconscious doesn't know the difference. So if you're dreaming big and you're dreaming of what you would truly love in life, that's what your subconscious is eventually going to get, and it's going to
Mhm.
stick, instead of those
Right,
old past tapes that we've been programmed with about, you know, not wanting more and not,
right.
not having enough.
Right. Oh, I just love this conversation. It's so beautiful. And it reminds me of, it's funny because I have a garden and I like to design my garden and be really thoughtful about like what plants need what kind of environment to thrive and what other plants need to be planted with them, companion planting, so that they'll have the best chance of thriving and repelling certain insects and attracting other insects. I tell you all that because every year there's a different area in my garden that I kind of focus on developing and carving out. And my husband is so funny. So we got these Adirondack chairs, and he likes to go out there and sit and enjoy. And I work in the garden, and he's been often saying, he goes, "Wow, I had no idea you were creative." And I thought that was kind of interesting because there's different way to be creative, right? There's with words and how you design your home and cooking and of course doing a garden. I thought that was really interesting. And he said, and I told him, I said, so now you know what was in my head. Because sometimes I explain to him, I'm going to put this over here, I'm going to put this over here. And he goes, yeah, it's really interesting to see the reality of what was in your head, right? So that's my vision. I have that vision, then I execute it. And so I just use that as an example, but we all have those things that we want to accomplish or we see it a certain way and then we execute it and it manifests itself and then other people can see it because that is an
Right.
interesting concept, right? So there's us dreaming, us visualizing, but when we put things in action, others can also appreciate it, enjoy it, benefit from it.
Right.
Anyway, that was just kind of an interesting thing that's
No, I love the garden analogy. That's great.
so let's move on to your key point number two. So I love how you emphasize for this second point, deciding for your dream. And when I first read that, I'm like, deciding for your dream? That's an interesting way to say it. So it's not from where you are, but from what you love, right? So why do you think so many people get stuck in the how? Because you talked about that. There's that in between place where um, you know, get stuck in the how and what does it look like before you truly decide to move forward.
And yeah, so, again, I think it's a lot of it is our own past beliefs and programming that, and and sometimes it could be, things like, you've learned in childhood, like, um, you thinking that you weren't good enough about, somehow because you tried something and you failed, right? So then the fear sets in and then you don't want to try it again. Um, so it stops you in your tracks from wanting to move forward. And fear is the biggest key for a lot of people because it is natural for our nervous system to um, have that fear and flight, kind of response when there's new things that come about, or it's something that's like, really exciting, or you think it's too big, then your subconscious tells you all these things of why it can't happen. So
Mm,
if you are crystal clear and you know you're coming from your vision, you know exactly what you want, then that's where your focus goes. And it's not, you have to retrain your subconscious and not think about the how. And that's why we kind of use a 3 year example, 3 years in the future, because it helps to kind of put that how on hold. People aren't constantly thinking about how much money they have to make it happen or all these other circumstances in life of why they can't make it happen. If it's in the 3 years in the future, it seems like more of a reality or a possibility for them. So that's just a good starting point to be able to get them to open up and start seeing things that could be possible without letting those circumstances and conditions stop them from just taking the next baby step.
Right.
Is that as you take the small steps, like you were talking about earlier, even the small steps, then you'll start seeing more and more opportunities that will open up for you that will align with your vision.
I love that the way you say that. Put the how on hold because the how manifests itself for a lot of us. I know for me in the past, and often I have to, kind of just stop and realize what it really is. The how is kind of like a brick wall sometimes. And it feels very impenetrable. It feels like a castle wall, really, really thick and impossible to be able to breach. But in reality, when I've worked with different people in the past and coached them myself in different business strategy techniques, I just encourage them to look at the brick wall as a
Oh,
paper
that's
wall that we
good.
can pop through. And when you change your mindset, just like you've said, everything's possible. But sometimes we don't have the vision, the strength, the energy, the confidence to even really understand that mindset shift that's necessary of viewing it as a brick wall versus a paper wall. So I love your tactic that you use of envisioning 3 years in the future, and that allows you to put that how on hold so that you have a little bit more time to make that mental shift and be able to re-envision um, that which would otherwise stop you. Like a brick wall,
Yeah.
who wants to pop through a brick wall? You got to have some confidence, right?
One of the simple tools that I teach my clients is up until now. When they start hearing those paradigms and negative thoughts come in, to just kind of reprogram it with adding up until now, So it's not set in stone, it may be in the past, but not, up until now, I may have not had that whatever to move forward, but now I do.
Right. The confidence, the skills, the
Yep.
wisdom,
It
the
could be, yeah, whatever,
experience,
in whatever area.
because a lot of times the fear likes to say, well, fear is false evidence appearing real, right? We've heard that acronym. So, so it allows us to, take into consideration there's other factors that have come into play in your life. Our wisdom, our experience, the situation. So I love that up until now. I'll have to remember I mean, I use the concept, but I like that those words that help you to
It's
quickly
it's
just,
just enough to, yeah, stop and retrain your thinking and go,
right,
okay, now I'm going down the path I don't want to go to. So
right.
that's kind of in the past up until now. Now is a different time. So we can change that. And it all
Yeah.
starts with your thoughts.
There's a chasm where you are now and then where you want to be, right? Or like you say, where you envision, what you love and what you want to be drawn to. And then there's that how in the middle. So that's the chasm that you need to be able to navigate. And with the tools that you've given us, put the how on hold and up until now, those are great tools to help us to re-envision it and perhaps even just envisioning the paper wall instead of the brick wall. So those things that normally stop us, they wouldn't be a hindrance.
Right.
So you talk about fear and failure, and you mentioned that, as there's such real parts of dreaming big. But how can we begin to befriend our fear? That was your key number three, which I love, befriending your fear rather than letting it stop us.
Well, there's been so many examples in my life that, I just know that anytime that I embrace the fear and first of all, I have to acknowledge it, right? You have to notice what you're noticing. And when you see the fear rise up, number one is notice that it's there. And then I ask myself, is it real, right? What am I afraid of? Is there anything really to be afraid of here? Or is it just my nervous system wanting me to pull me back to the status quo to, not be uncomfortable? Because most people, when they are growing, that's uncomfortable. And so they want to stop themselves from that because a lot of people like to be in that comfort zone, right? They don't want
Hmm.
to be uncomfortable. But what I have learned from my experience is that's where your growth is. That is where you're growing, is when you are getting uncomfortable. So, being able to step through that fear, first of all, acknowledge it, find out whether or not there's anything to really be afraid of, and then, just step through it. Then I have always come out on the other side definitely stronger and feeling more confident and and better about myself for being able to conquer that and to just step into it and realize that there really wasn't anything to be afraid of, that it's a good experience, but you have to convince yourself that it's worth it. And I guess that's part of where your visioning comes through too, is it's like if your why is large enough and your vision is big enough, then you're not going to let those fears stop you. You're going to keep drudging through those little times where you're maybe afraid and you want to seize up, but you don't, because at the end it's going to be all worth it.
Right. And I've heard it kind of a strategy also where people use worst case scenario. Like instead of that which you resist persists. You've heard that
Oh,
saying.
yes.
And that's helped me through a lot. When I heard that, that was like a big deal. When I heard that for the first time, I'm like, wow, it's true. When we resist something that it keeps showing up in our life, sometimes we need to, like the worst case scenario, like, okay, fine, if all the worst thing that I'm imagining happened, now what? And you just give yourself permission to go through that. And it's like, well, I didn't die, I'm
Yeah,
or it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Um, because there's so many things. I used to, it's kind of hard to even say this out loud because I'm not that person anymore. But when I was a young girl, I remember kind of joking about it, like, yeah, I like to worry about worrying. I was a worrier. And I learned different strategies like the worst case scenario and and different other things that we've talked about that it helped me to realize that, how much time was wasted worrying and how many things that I worried about never came to pass. And
oh
so
yeah,
I learned to kind of flip that scenario and it's like, yes, be cautious. Yes, be wise. Not be, don't be foolish. Don't be, but at the same time, why waste your energy and your time worrying about things that may never happen?
for sure. And that kind of goes back to the noticing what you're noticing, right? And actually, first of all, acknowledging it and then seeing if it is a real fear. And like you said, then worst case scenario, right? What's going to happen if I do this? What's the worst thing that can happen? Yeah.
Is when you really think about our lives and look into it, how many things that we worried about, really never happened, or to the extent that we were concerned about them. And so it's better to be in a positive mindset and when things happen that were unexpected, you just deal with them as they
Yep.
come, you know? That's the benefit of of years of on
Of
this
wisdom.
planet, wisdom and
Yeah.
being able to communicate that to young people. Just think about it. If we had somebody that sat us down and really, shared that with us, that would have saved us a lot of anxiety, right?
Oh yeah, I guilty. I don't know how many times I, let my own mind go a little crazy over, the what ifs. And it's like
Right.
the thing is it doesn't change anything either, right? It doesn't help anything by you worrying about it.
Lost
Or,
sleep.
obsessing over it. It's not gonna change anything.
Right.
So it's only
Right.
gonna, make you miserable. And yeah, I had to learn that the hard way for a while.
These are really good principles. They're really powerful. They're simple. They're easy to understand, and they really help, are helpful to navigate through the process of being able to envision your dream and manifest it in your life. So let's end with, and then we can open up for Q&A here. So you teach a formula that is simple yet really profound. You showed us a graphic about thoughts lead to feelings, lead to actions, lead to results. So, how can we start using this framework today to begin shifting the results that we're seeing in different areas of our life?
Well, so it's so key, like we already talked about, it always starts with your thoughts, and what you're thinking is what you're going to produce in life, right? So, there's several tools that I teach my clients, but one of the most powerful is just to start, first of all, notice what you're noticing, and then if you notice yourself, having those negative thoughts or those self-limiting thoughts, then to repattern them. And first of all, notice it, then repattern it by with something more positive. And and then and then it's going to change your actions. So if you're thinking positive thoughts, you're going to act positively. If you're thinking negatively thoughts, you're going to have negative reactions, right? And then that's going to affect how you're going to your actions. And then that's, of course, going to affect your results. So it's just kind of laid out that way because that's the way it works. If you're thinking, like I just said, if you're thinking positive thoughts, then you're going to have, positive feelings. And then if you have positive feelings, you're going to have positive results and positive actions. So it's just being able to kind of switch that when you do notice what you are thinking, trying to shift your thought process so that you do have the results that you would like to see.
So, I really love that reminder because if we don't interrupt some of those patterns or those thoughts, they kind of just like love to just play themselves out, right? And
Yeah.
take control. And sometimes I know when I'm tired, you're not feeling well, there's a lot going on. It's easy to just just like let that just play out like a movie, right? And then I find that the longer you allow that movie to play or those whatever in your head, the harder it is to stop it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so to get in the habit of, like you said, okay, noticing, okay, I'm feeling good and that, I'm having a good day and things are just humming along and that's fine. Just let it go. Like let's keep that parade going versus the negative thoughts to be able to recognize it. The sooner we recognize it, to be able to cut it off
Yeah, repattern it for sure.
and repattern it and have that pattern interrupter. Um, the thing that I guess it was a really powerful analogy for me is I love essential oils.
Mm,
And I learned that there's different essential oils that can be used for different things, just like, for gardening, you give things what they need. But there's certain oils that will actually pattern interrupt. And so like I have this little adaptive thing. And when I'm feeling like a little stressed or, I need to ground myself, I just
I have one of those too.
yeah, I just put it on and I smell it and it just
Yeah,
takes me in a different direction. It's not even like I have to physically say, okay, I'm gonna turn my thoughts. It's just this becomes a pattern interrupt. So there's different things in our life that can be used as pattern interrupt. Maybe instead of sitting here working, get up and go for a walk. Go outside and take your shoes off, splash water on your face. Those are all pattern interrupters, right? Um, but being able to recognize that you're in a negative place or a positive place is that's the first part. You said thoughts, right? Recognize it and then be able to make that shift to change things and small things can change big things.
right.
They change the physiology of our health and our mindset. And there's so many things. I love this conversation because I think it's integral to how we want to show up in the world, how we want to live our lives, um, and how we can shift things.
Right. And just like if it's, something that a goal or a dream that you're headed toward, if you start having those negative thoughts about, your circumstances and conditions, interrupting it by up until now or whatever, take a small walk, whatever works for you. And then take one small step, just one small step toward that. And it'll change your whole perspective too. Once you can achieve one small step toward that goal or dream, then it's gonna, re-energize you and make you feel like more is possible, right?
Right. Well, I love it that you're providing us with the toolbox of things that we can use to help us to be able to really execute and envision our dream and have it manifest in our life, not just like, oh, someday maybe, but really become a reality. And so I love all the tools that you've provided us with and you know, and you've lived this yourself. You use these tools to move yourself from a corporate life that you didn't, enjoy and that um, what was the word you used? You were not happy with, right?
No, I was just sick, literally. I was physically getting ill and I was soul sick. It was horrible. But yeah, it's not just that. I've manifested things in my life, over and over again using these tools. So I've got my little cabin in the woods that's our home away from home, my little retreat, and I love going there. And that was one of my biggest things that I've manifested for me and my family that we'd love and enjoy. And just to small things like building on my relationships with my family, and having a different mindset and making those relationships stronger and just dynamic today compared to what they were before.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Question for you. Did you purchase, envision your cabin before you left your corporate job, or what was the time?
Yes, I started envisioning it before I left my corporate job, but we didn't actually get it built until after I retired.
Oh, okay. But
Yeah.
that was a seed that was planted,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So many years
It
ago.
took it took a couple years.
That's
And it
beautiful.
changed and morphed, like you were saying earlier, just because you have a blueprint or you have a dream doesn't mean that that's the only way it can go either. And that's really key to be able to be open to what, the universe is going to put in front of you too. It could be totally different than what you originally envisioned, which my cabin was. But it's usually better, and that's the way it's always worked in my life.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that's a key word that I've used in my life, whatever you pray for, whatever you wish for, whatever you envision, or something better. So you're
right,
making room for
exactly. This or something better. Yep.
this or something better, right? You're making room for it. Well, I've loved this conversation. Let's go ahead and open the lines for anyone who has any epiphanies, ahas, questions for you. I think it'd be really fun to open the conversation with others as well, because we've had a lot of fun today. So,
Yeah.
Patrice, I see you've unmuted yourself.
Thanks, Joanne. I really appreciate your time today and how you've reminded us of the three key steps. They seem
Thank you,
very
Patrice.
powerful. Do you have any suggestions on how to gain clarity? I often struggle with that. Like, I think I want that, but I'm not really sure. Is that really what I
Um,
want?
well,
So, do you have any suggestions?
there's several things that I take my clients through, but the first thing is always to start with what you already know, right? What what do you know that you would love? And you just start there. And I take my clients through a couple of different exercises, but one of them is the 5-point test that you put your dream through. And that's first of all, does it bring you life? Um, is there good in it for others? Do you need help from a higher power in order to achieve it? No, I'm drawing a blank on what the five are. But it's a 5-point system basically to kind of test your dream, to make sure that it's, oh, is it worthy of your time and talent? Not, am I worthy of it, but are you worthy of it? That's also very important. And does it bring you life? Is there good in it for others? Um, yeah. And so you have to really look at those things to make sure that it qualifies for you in order to bring you life, and that it's, good for you, not just, um, I'm kind of losing my words here. Not
No, it's
just,
okay.
so it's in good for others, things like that. And one of the things that a lot of people kind of ask me about with that one is, it's like, so somebody, an example, like somebody wants love, right? They want love in their life. And they're like, well, how is that good for others, right? Well, so a great example that Mary uses is, if you see a couple walking down the street hand in hand, like for me, like an older couple, doesn't that kind of bring you life? Doesn't it kind of just like make you happy to see people actually being in love? So it's pretty simple as far as, really knowing what you would love, and just qualifying it that anything is possible if you really vision it and you really want it and you really love it and you get crystal clear on it, then you can make it happen.
And do you recommend writing it down? Like, how do you
Oh,
remind
definitely.
yourself of your dream? Do you journal it or write it down or?
So what we do is we actually write down the vision, and then we keep changing it and, improving it as we go. And the more you say it, I actually have my clients say it every day, because you want to be coming from your vision. So there's the four quadrants, and usually what I do is I have my clients pick one that they really want to focus on at first. Um, because if you focus on one, the other ones are going to follow. But you want to just focus your energy on one area first of all. And then yeah, we we do the time machine thing that we did in the class. I do that with my clients every week, and they write down their vision. I help them get really crystal clear on what that is. And then, it changes and morphs and gets better as time goes on. And they say it every day, if not more
Mhm.
than once a day, to themselves, so that they can come from the feeling of that vision. And that helps raise your vibration.
Right. Thank you.
And so just as a reminder, you talk about the quadrants being love and relationships, and then health and well-being, right?
Vocation and time and money freedom.
Right. And you had us do an exercise on that we were able to rate on a scale of, was it 0 to 5?
Yeah,
5, something like that.
1 to 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
One being not satisfied at all, and 5 being completely satisfied
Right.
in that area of
That
your
was
life.
that was a really good exercise, because it helped you to kind of see, okay, I'm not there, but I'm on my way, or I have
Right.
a lot of work to do. It's a very simple exercise, but it's very powerful because it's visual.
Mhm.
And I've seen others that have used something similar to that. And if like you're all at 3, it's not that it's bad, it's just more even, right? But if you're at 1 and then 5, then you're like your life is kind of out of, if you
Right.
vision
And
it like
it's,
a wheel.
yeah, it's just to kind of pinpoint for you where you feel like you have, an area that you would like to improve more in your life,
Right.
right? That's the whole point of that exercise.
Yeah.
It's not good or bad. I mean, we all
Right.
have areas in our lives that we might want to improve a little bit, and that's just to help you pinpoint those areas.
And it might change day to day or week to week or month to month or year to
Oh,
year, right?
sure.
So it's not set in stone. I love that. Lisa, did you want
I found that very helpful. I wish I'd known you 24 years ago, Joanne.
to?
But I had kind of, I've accidentally fallen into those categories. It was really wonderful how you explained it. And I think that's my thing right now is people need to decide. And that's why I talked, you decide when you want to downsize and then you have a goal. And so how you go through it really works. So what you present is really helpful. I'm glad you're doing it, what you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much.
While we were talking, while Joanne and I were having the conversation, I was looking at Lisa and I was going to bring this up, but I thought, if it comes at the end of the, during the Q&A, that'd be great. But Lisa, you've lived that. I'm looking at your house right now, your
Yeah,
beautiful new house, and how you had to design it, and how there's things that you told me that, you weren't going to cover the garage, and then because of the ceiling, that's it's really the conversation that Joanna and I are having, that you had a plan, but
right,
then you were open to changing the plan, and how it's really better now because you got a beautiful enclosed garage now, right?
right, right.
That you hadn't
But And
envisioned
it's and it
plan.
seemed talk about my business has changed because I'm getting older, so things have changed. So it's just good to evaluate where you are now and what you're capable of and what
Oh, yeah.
and still be soul satisfied.
Yeah.
I'm really happy with how that's working out.
Yes. And not doing things because you should or
Right,
you have to.
right.
But especially when, as we get older, it comes from a place of what makes my heart happy, what
That's
brings
right.
me joy. So Kathy, I see your hands raised. We can't hear you though, Kathy. You're not muted, but we can't hear you.
Mhm.
Let us know when your sound comes in. Anything else you want to share? Yep.
Now, can
Yep, we can hear you.
I just
Perfect.
didn't have it on the right. So Joanne, I'm glad that I kind of sat in on this. What happens, or what do you recommend when somebody has gotten to their dream, but then all of a sudden everything comes to a screaming halt, and that dream gets taken away? So, what then do you recommend as a pickup or a startup, or how do you go from that?
Well, just like you would at the very beginning, you just don't want to lose sight of what that dream is. Actually, my mentor, Mary Morrissey, has had something like that happen to her, and she lost everything, and she had to build everything from scratch. And the thing is, what happened with her, she walked on the beach for like a week because she had to go through all of those emotions and everything that, that you do when there's a loss. And basically what she came to is she felt that, her higher power, God, whatever you want to call it, basically told her, that, she wasn't dead yet. And that might be a chapter in her story, but it's not her whole story. So I would suggest basically that by looking at it as life is not over. That might be a chapter that maybe didn't end well, but it doesn't mean that it's the whole book. It's not your whole life. So to be able to kind of shift, I guess, the perception and your thinking on that, to know that, yeah, that happened and that maybe wasn't good or whatever the circumstances, but that doesn't mean you can't still move forward. Does that help at all?
It does in a way. So the situation, was that I got so close to moving out, moving into a new home and everything, and the buyer died, and I was like 2 weeks from closing, and so now it's like I've been trying to get out of here for a while. This situation, so now I have to I mean, I'm still moving forward, but it's a whole different scenario. So I'm trying to keep my my thoughts and my move forward together, but it's been very, very difficult. And it's like, I feel like it's never going to happen. And I know God has a plan or whatever, but it's trying to get back into that positivity and everything that, okay, we're going to move forward. We're just going to do it in a different way. And unfortunately, the different way is going to be a very long, complicated, expensive way, I think. So it's like keeping that, moving forward when you get such a big loss, I guess you say.
Okay, so again, I would say come from your vision, get really crystal clear on what you would love and how you want it to look. And just start coming from that every day and knowing that that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to materialize. And don't focus on the how, thinking that it's going to be worse and it's going to be, don't let those thoughts get into your mind. Is just concentrate on the vision and what you would love and how you, so sorry, somebody's at my door, my dog's barking. That just knowing in your heart and knowing, like you said, that God's going to take care of you and it's going to work out better than you could imagine. There probably was a reason that this has happened and you might not see it now, but probably the end is going to turn out much better than it would have if this would have came through.
Yeah, yeah. So what you're saying is just keep focusing on the dream. Don't think about the process. Don't think about anything. Just
try to put all that negativity out of your mind and just focus on the dream and the vision of what you would love.
Do you recommend like writing anything every day or any way to keep you focused?
So write down your vision and get crystal clear on it with feelings, visions, so you're talking about a home. What do you want this home to look like? Do you want, big picture windows? Do you want a little fenced in yard? All of the things that you would envision that you would love, get as detailed as you possibly can and keep those in your visions with the feeling tone so that when you're thinking of this little home that you are going to move into or whatever, that it is so crystal clear that when you think about it, it just makes you feel happy inside and it makes your vibration raise. And when you think about it like that, you may see that there's going to be other opportunities that will pop up that you would have never thought about. Instead of thinking about, oh, this is the way it's going to have to look, let go of that.
Okay. Okay. That's good. 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 Thank you.
Hope that helps.
It did. It did. Yeah.
And you can always reach out to me, Kathy, if you want.
You're muted again, Kathy.
I did, so you couldn't hear me. No, I thank you. I knew that was true, so I appreciate that, Joanne.
Any other thoughts or questions for Joanne before we wrap up here? Well, Joanne, why don't you leave us with some parting thoughts? If there's any questions that I've missed, anything that you want to impart to those who are joining us today or listening to the replay, this is a great opportunity. And after we do that, I want to be able to have you share the offerings that you want to make available to our listeners as well.
Oh, thoughts to leave you with, I guess, mainly is remember that you are worthy of everything you can dream of and so much more, because there's just so many people that who have let go of that due to circumstances and conditions in their lives. And I just want to encourage everybody to open up their hearts again, to dream and to know that they are worthy of all their dreams. So keep dreaming.
That's beautiful because unworthiness stops us from feeling valuable enough, worthy enough to receive those things. And so we need to really embrace that. That's a beautiful closing thought. Thank you for that. Can you share you had a couple offerings that you made available to our Exceptional Connections community and those listening to the replay? So I know you have a coaching strategy session
Right. And yeah, first and foremost, yeah, anybody who wants a strategy session and to kind of concentrate on one area in their life, one dream, so I can help you fine tune that, reach out to me. I'm offering that strategy session for free. And could be a 45-minute to an hour conversation to just get crystal clear on what you would love
And
and the
then you
next steps to get there.
beautiful. Well, that's very generous of you. Thank you. And then also you have a 12-week program.
I do. And that's where, we really do get in depth and I give you all the tools to help you navigate through all of these fears that come up and, the past beliefs and things like that to kind of break through those. And it's a 12-week program. We basically meet once a week. You get exercises and videos to listen to and to watch. And then there's actually workbooks also along with it so that you can use the practical tools to put them into practice. And yeah, that goes for 12 weeks. And I'm offering that at a 50% discount for anybody in Exceptional Connections, um, either one-on-one or group. If you know of a couple people that want to do it and you want to get a deeper discount, then I love to do small groups because it's nice to be able to, bounce ideas off of each other and encourage each other and it's a lot of fun. I've done several small groups and it's worked out really well. So
And for you, a small group is 2 or more gathering.
yeah, just 2 or more is fine. And then you basically get the whole 12-week program and my coaching for $597.
Okay. And then the one-on-one coaching is
And the one-on-one also is 50% off would be $997, where it's normally double that.
right. Okay. And then for those who are listening who may not be a part of Exceptional Connections, but they'd be interested in your services, they can still contact you and find out what the offer that you have available at that time.
Oh, you bet.
Okay. So check the description box and Joanne's contact information will be included there if you want to follow up with her. So we'll just close with remember to make every connection an exceptional connection. Thank you so much, Joanne. Thank you everybody for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, everybody. It's been
Appreciate
great.
you.